Hello, my name is Rob Pedersen, Director of Customs Compliance and Government Solutions for the Descartes Systems Group. In this screencast, I will take you through the steps necessary to create a compliant Japan AFR House Bill in the Global Trade Compliance JP24 application. Users familiar with the data elements of a Japan AFR House Bill will have no trouble entering complete and valid data quickly. New users are sure to learn the requirements quickly and completely thanks to the UI's autocompletes and validations on Create. You will never submit an incomplete house bill to Japan Customs. Now, let's get started. Once you have successfully logged in to the JP24 application, click the Bills tab. All house bills are created, submitted, and managed from the Bills tab. To begin a new house bill, click the Add House Bill button. Each house bill is comprised of 5 sections: General, Parties, Items, Containers, and Temporary Landing. Click through each of these sections to enter your data. Although this training will focus on the tabbed shipment view, you may also view the shipment as a single page. This will let you navigate through sections using only the keyboard, omitting the mouse. This is a real time saver when entering dozens of house bills. Toggle between views at any time. I always start a house bill with the general information, which includes reference fields, vessel and voyage detail, and relevant ports. Bill number is one part in combination with the house bill number of the unique key reference for your house bill. The bill number is issued by the steamship line and must be preceded by their carrier code. This code may be their NMFTA issued SCAC code or a carrier code issued by Japan directly for Japan AFR compliance. Your house bill number must be preceded by your SCAC code or Japan issued filer code for NVOCCs. Select the Completion Identifier checkbox if all house bills for the master have been submitted. For example, you're entering a series of 10 house bills underneath one master. For house bills 1 through 9, you will leave the Completion Identifier checkbox unmarked. For house bill number 10, check the Completion Identifier, letting know Japan Customs that you will no longer submit additional house bills for that master. A note on determining mandatory, conditional, and optional fields. As a rule, the labels of mandatory fields, such as the bill number, are bold. Those labels which are not bold, they're conditional and only mandatory if the data you enter requires them to be, or they are optional and can be omitted altogether with no impact on compliance. For example, Completion Identifier is conditional, while eAlert email address is optional and may be omitted. In the carrier field, enter the Standard Carrier Alpha code or SCAC code for the steamship line. If enabled by your account administrator, when you choose to enter an email address in the eAlert field, that address will receive updates for only that house bill. This could be useful if you wanted to keep the shipper, consignee, or another third party updated automatically on the status of a specific house bill. You may select the Relaxed App Area Identifier checkbox only if your cargo is loading or transshipping in certain ports. Cargo moving from these ports will not be required to meet the 24-hour rule. the house bill must be filed at the time of sailing. A complete list of these ports can be found on the Help tab. Under Voyage, enter the Japan-issued vessel code or call sign, the vessel name, and the voyage number for this house bill. This detail will come from the steamship line and should be the details for the vessel arriving in Japan. Note on the ellipses next to some fields. This symbol indicates that the field is an autocomplete. Autocompletes are enabled on fields which require standardized codes, such as UN location codes, or fields which require user-created content, such as vessel detail or the consignor consignees. Autocompletes are designed to speed data entry and to ensure compliance. Enter the relevant ports for this house bill using UN location codes designated by Japan as compliant for Japan AFR. A complete list of these codes are available on the Help tab. For the port of load, select the port where the goods were loaded on the vessel which is actually arriving in Japan. You may optionally select the load order. If the vessel calls at 3 ports and your port of load was the second stop, you would select 2 from the list. Enter the estimated date and time of departure. All time in JP24 is recorded in Greenwich Mean Time. If you enter your local time, choose the GMT difference from the drop-down menu. In New York City in January, the difference is -5. In Hong Kong, it's +8. Enter the port of discharge in Japan. You may also think of this field as the port of arrival, if your goods are simply transiting Japan on their way to another country. Enter the estimated date of arrival in Japan. Use the date picker to choose the correct date from the calendar. Enter the port of origin. This may be different than the port of load. For example, the goods may load on Vessel 1 in Los Angeles and then transship to Vessel 2 in Singapore, which is ultimately bound for Japan. In this scenario, US LAX or Los Angeles is the port of origin, while SGSIN is the port of load. Enter the place of delivery. This may be different than the port of discharge if the goods are transiting Japan onto another nation or moving inland via different carriage. Final destination is an optional field. Forwarding party operates like the secondary notified party functionality in US Ocean ACE. Click Add and a field will open and ask you for a forwarding party code. If you enter the Japan NVOCC code for house bills or similar in this field, the owner of that code will receive notification of the creation of your house bill. You may add multiple forwarding parties. Fields in the Other section are optional. They will be sent to Japan if included. These fields include internal reference number, a customer reference number, freight value, and remarks. When finished with the General subtab, you can move on to the parties. Parties in JP24 include the consignor or shipper, consignee, and 2 notified parties. 1 notified party is required even if it is the same as the consignee. The Japan AFR requirements provide a simple method for recording party details. The consignor's name is always required. If you have the code issued by Japan for this party, you may enter that on the code line. No other party information is necessary. You will most likely choose to enter the full address of the consignor. You can either choose to use the structured address or you may choose the unstructured address block. If you choose the address block, enter all address information, including street name and number, city, state, or province, postal code, and phone number on one line. For the structured address, enter both address 1 and address 2. A period is sufficient if there is only one line. City, state, or province, postal code, and phone number. Country is mandatory regardless of your choice of address block or the structured address fields. Repeat these steps for the consignee and at least one of the two notify parties sections. Please note, the parties autocompletes refer to the data you have created in the Global Compliance Profiles application. Nearly all other global customs agencies require a structured or semi-structured address for shippers, consignees, and other parties. If you wish to use the address block for Japan AFR compliance, you may need to update your party profiles to meet this unique structure. When you have entered all parties, you may move to the Item subtab. Although only one item HS code is provided for in the Japan AFR requirements, you are still required to record all commodities on your house bill. Guidance from Japan Customs indicates that you should follow the procedure I outline here for house bills with multiple line items. Enter the HS or Harmonized Series Code for the greatest line item. Greatest can be interpreted as that line item with the most number or the most valuable. The HS code is a 6-digit numeric which aligns with the U.S. Harmonized Tariff Code. Enter the description of the commodity listed in the HS code field. In the remaining description space, enter the HS codes and descriptions for each of the additional line items on your house bill. For the optional country of origin, choose the country of origin of the commodity you noted in the HS code field. Commodities are identified in JP24 by their smallest retail packaging. You must note any marks and numbers on that packaging. Enter the total number of packages. For house bills with multiple line items, enter the total of all commodities and select the packaging type which would best cover them all. Box, carton, or package are included options. Enter the total measurement of your packages in either cubic meters, cubic feet, or board foot measurements if transporting timber. Decimals are allowed up to 3 characters. Under totals, enter the gross weight. For multiple line items, put the sum total of their gross weight. Decimals are allowed. Optionally, you may also enter the net weight of the commodities. Dangerous goods is a conditional section. If the house bill includes controlled, flammable, or radioactive goods, you should transmit those details. For house bills with multiple line items, select the commodity which is the most critical. The dangerous cargo code is specific to Japan. A list of codes may be found on the Help tab. If you enter the Japan Dangerous Cargo Code, you must also enter the International Maritime Dangerous Goods, or IMDG, code and the UN Dangerous Goods Code. Certain laws or ordinances in Japan may apply to the commodities. If you are aware of these laws, click Add and enter the 2-character alpha code for the law that applies. Once you have completed items, you may move to the Containers subtab. You may have up to 999 containers on your house bill. To add a container, click Add. Under Container 1, enter the container number. Choose the container identification from the drop-down menu. Full is the default option. Select the dimensions and size code for the container. Identify the type of container from the drop-down menu. Select who owns or has provided you the container for this house bill. Although not clearly marked as such, seals are mandatory. Click Add Seal and enter the seal number. Repeat as necessary. To add additional containers, click Add and repeat these steps. Once you have entered all of your containers, click the Temporary Landing subtab. Temporary landing is conditional. If your goods are only stopping in Japan on their way to another country, you must fill out the temporary landing section. Consider this similar to freight retained on board or an immediate exportation in bond in the U.S. Select the identifier transshipment if this temporary landing in Japan is part of a transshipment. Select the reason for the temporary landing from the drop-down menu. Enter the duration of the stop in calendar days. Optionally, you may also enter the start and finish dates of the temporary landing. Select the conveyance moving your cargo during the transshipment from the Transport Mode drop-down menu. Enter the UN location code for the bonded warehouse where the cargo will transit. Once you have entered all available house bill data, you must save your file. The JP24 application offers 3 options. Save as draft. No validations or edit checks beyond key reference details are applied to a house bill, saved as a draft. If you have not completed data entry and wish to return at a later time, save the house bill as a draft. Create applies all validations and edit checks to the house bill. Only when the house bill passes all validations will it be saved and ready to submit to Japan Customs. If there are errors, the application will save the house bill as a draft and direct you to those errors and provide guidance on how to correct them. Once corrected, you can save the house bill. Submit will both create the shipment and if it passes all validations, submit your house bill to Japan. If your house bill has already been created, Submit will revalidate your house bill and save any updates before submission. Only when your house bill has been successfully created or submitted will the status button be visible. You may check responses to your submission from the status screen, view a summary of your data, and the transactional history. Responses from Japan AFR are nearly instantaneous. Once you have received a response, color-coded status icons will highlight problem house bills. These icons follow a traditional stoplight pattern. Red indicates an error, green success, yellow the transaction is either in process or pending update. If your house bill is rejected by Japan Customs, you may edit your data and resubmit. The exact response message from Japan Customs is displayed under Responses. Each is date and time stamped and presents both the result code and any discrepancy. For example, a no match to the master bill. This information can help you determine errors and their potential resolution. Below responses is the history. Each transaction on the house bill is recorded. These include application functions such as save, draft, or submit, as well as responses from Japan. The TID, or transaction ID, is the unique number used to reference the file created or delivered on the Global Logistics Network. This can be useful in troubleshooting communications issues between the application and Japan Customs, or providing further proof to a government agency that a house bill was delivered in a timely manner.